There is a book sitting at the very back of your Bible that most Christians quietly avoid. Not because they don't believe it, but because they genuinely have no idea what it means. Beasts rising from the sea, a woman clothed with the sun, 7 seals, 4 horsemen, a number that's been tattooed on rock bands and horror movies for decades. But here's what nobody tells you. The book of Revelation was never meant to confuse you. It was written as a warning, a roadmap, and believe it or not, the single most encouraging book in the entire Bible. And when you understand what it's actually saying, you'll start to see it everywhere. In the news, in your government, in the culture shifting around you in real time. So today we're walking through the most important events in Revelation, what they mean, and what they tell us about the world we're living in right now. I promise you, by the end of this video, you will never look at the news the same way again. But before we start, I need to tell you something crucial. Revelation is not primarily a book about doom. It's a book about a victory that has already been won. Keep that in mind as we go, because it changes everything. Let's start at the beginning. Around 95 AD, an elderly man named John is exiled to a remote island called Patmos. The Roman Empire has been systematically hunting down followers of Jesus, and John, one of the last living apostles, is considered dangerous enough to be removed from society entirely. Alone on a rocky island with nowhere to go, he receives what can only be described as the most extraordinary vision in human history. The very first thing Jesus tells him to do is write letters, not prophecy, to 7 real churches in 7 real cities, addressing 7 very real problems: pride, compromise, false teaching, spiritual laziness, and the loss of their first love. These are personal, practical challenges, not distant predictions. Sound familiar? Before John even gets to the cosmic fireworks, Jesus is writing emails to churches that look suspiciously like the ones we attend today. This is the first sign that Revelation is not some distant fantasy about people we will never meet. It is a mirror. Now here is where it gets interesting. After the letters, John is lifted into a vision of heaven itself. He sees a throne blazing with light, 24 elders surrounding it, and 4 living creatures covered in eyes, endlessly crying out. At the center of everything is a scroll sealed with 7 seals that no one in all of creation is worthy to open. John begins to weep, and honestly, same. But then something shifts. A voice tells him to look, and he turns expecting a lion, the conquering king of Israel. Instead, he sees a slaughtered lamb standing upright. This lamb alone takes the scroll and begins to open it. Why does this matter? Because right there, before a single seal is broken, before a single judgment falls, Revelation tells you who is in control. Not the beast, not the Antichrist, not the forces of darkness. A slaughtered lamb who already won. Everything that follows happens under his authority, not in spite of it. Now the 4 horsemen. The first seal releases a rider on a white horse. He carries a bow and a crown, and he rides out as a conqueror intent on conquest. Many scholars believe this is a figure of deception, a false peace, a counterfeit king. Think of every political leader in history who promised unity and delivered chaos. Every movement that began with idealism and ended in oppression. The white horse is still riding. The second seal brings a red horse, and its rider is given power to take peace from the earth and make people slaughter one another. He carries a massive sword. Turn on any news channel today. Ukraine, the Middle East, rising tensions between world superpowers. The red horse has never really stopped. The third seal reveals a black horse. Its rider holds a pair of scales. A voice announces staggering food prices, a day's wages for a loaf of bread. But oil and wine are untouched. That detail is not accidental. The wealthy are protected, the poor are crushed. Sound like any economic system you've heard of lately, or any form of economic injustice. The fourth seal. A pale horse. Its rider's name is Death, and Hades follows close behind. Authority is given over a quarter of the earth to kill by sword, by famine, by plague, and by wild beasts. Now I want to be honest with you here. There is genuine disagreement among scholars about whether these seals describe specific future events or recurring patterns throughout human history. But here is what is undeniable. The conditions they describe, false peace, war, economic injustice, mass death, are not things we need to imagine. We see them playing out on a rotating cycle, and Revelation says this is not random, it is permitted, it is measured, and it is building towards something. Let's talk about that something. Because buried in the middle of Revelation, between all the terrifying imagery, is one of the most staggering statistics ever written. John sees a vision of heaven packed with people from every nation, tribe, language, and people group. An uncountable crowd, billions of human beings who went through tremendous suffering on earth and came out the other side robed in white, standing before God. And here's what one of the elders says about them. These are the ones who came out of the Great Tribulation, not around it or airlifted above it, out of it, through it. This is the part of Revelation that gets quietly skipped in a lot of sermons, but I think it's the most important part of the whole book. God does not promise his people an easy road, he promises them a destination, and the destination is overwhelmingly, unimaginably glorious. Now let's talk about the part everyone is actually curious about. The beast, the number 666, the mark. Revelation chapter 13 introduces a creature rising from the sea with 10 horns and 7 heads. It is given authority by a dragon, who we are told is Satan himself. The whole world is astonished by this beast and asks, who is like it, and who can make war against it? Here is what I need you to understand about the beast. Every generation of Christians since Nero has had a candidate for who the Antichrist is. Napoleon, Hitler, various American presidents, various popes. So far, everyone has been wrong. And that should make us humble. But what Revelation does tell us clearly is this. The beast is a system of power that demands worship. It is a global authority that persecutes those who refuse to bow, and it cannot exist without a world that is already primed to hand over its freedom in exchange for security, prosperity, and a sense of belonging. Look at that description, and then look at the digital age we are currently living in, not to point fingers or name names. But we live in an era where a handful of corporations control the flow of information to the entire planet. Where your financial access can be removed with a click, where social pressure to conform to official narratives has never been more intense. I'm not saying the beast is here, I'm saying the infrastructure for it has never been easier to build, and the mark, Revelation is clear that no one will be able to buy or sell without it. What is fascinating is that the angel announcement we read about earlier makes this an unmistakable, public, impossible to miss event. You will not take it by accident. You will know exactly what you are choosing. But here is the detail about 666 that actually blew my mind when I first understood it. In Hebrew thought, 7 is the number of completion and perfection. God rested on the 7th day. 7 represents the fullness of God's holiness. 6 falls short. It is the number of humanity created on the 6th day, reaching for divine status but unable to grasp it. 666 is not just a spooky number, it is a theological statement. The beast is a human system that tries 3 times over to be God and fails 3 times over. It is power dressed up as divinity, strength pretending to be holiness. And this is where Revelation becomes uncomfortably personal. Because the antithesis of 666 is not just a future moment, it is a daily question. What are you giving your worship to? What system are you trusting with your security? What are you unwilling to lose even if it costs you your integrity? Every follower of Christ in every generation has had to answer that question. The early Christians answered it in Roman Colosseums. Chinese believers answer it today in underground churches. You and I answer it in quieter ways. But the question is the same. Now I have to tell you about the 2 witnesses, because this is one of the strangest and most overlooked passages in all of Revelation. 2 figures appear in chapter 11 with extraordinary power. They prophesy for 1,260 days, which works out to 3.5 years. They can call down fire, they can turn water to blood, and strike the earth with plagues whenever they want. And for 3.5 years, nobody can touch them. Then the beast kills them. Their bodies lie in the street. And the people of the earth are so relieved that they throw a party and exchange gifts. Think about that image for a second. Humanity celebrating the death of two prophets, sending each other presents because the voices telling them the truth have finally been silenced. 3.5 days later, the breath of God enters those bodies. They stand up. They ascend to heaven in a cloud while their enemies watch. And then the 7th trumpet sounds. The mystery of God is finished. Whatever you believe about the timing of the rapture, whether before the tribulation, midway through, or at the end, Revelation 11 is one of the most dramatic turning points in the entire book. The witnesses finish their testimony, the dead are raised, and Christ's reign begins. So where does all of this end? Revelation 19 is where the tone shifts completely. After all the seals and trumpets and bowls and beasts, after all the suffering and persecution and darkness, heaven opens, and a rider on a white horse appears. But this is not the false conqueror from Seal 1. This rider has eyes like flames of fire. He wears many crowns. His name is written on him. He is King of kings and Lord of lords. And the armies of heaven follow behind him, clothed in white linen. The beast is captured. The false prophet is captured. They are thrown into the lake of fire. Satan is bound for 1,000 years, and then, after the millennium, after the final judgment, after the last enemy has been defeated, Revelation ends with something so beautiful it almost sounds too good to be true. A new heaven, a new earth, a new Jerusalem coming down from the sky like a bride adorned for her husband. This is the new vision of completion, and God himself says, "I am making everything new. No more death. No more mourning, no more crying, no more pain, not managed, not minimized, gone, permanently, forever. No more is the promise." This is the ending the whole Bible has been building towards since Genesis 3, when the curse first fell. And everything in Revelation, every terrifying image, every judgment, every bowl of wrath, is the process by which God surgically removes evil from his creation so that this ending can happen. So what do you do with all of this? Here's what I'd tell you. Don't spend your energy trying to identify the Antichrist. Don't lose sleep mapping every headline to a specific seal. People have been doing that for 2,000 years and they've been wrong every single time. Instead, do what Revelation actually tells you to do. It tells you to hold on. It tells you to overcome. 7 times in the letters to the 7 churches, Jesus makes promises to those who overcome, not those who are comfortable, not those who are performing well, those who are still standing. It tells you to worship. One of the great discoveries hidden inside this terrifying book is that worship is the weapon. Every time judgment is about to fall on earth, the scene cuts to heaven where creatures and elders and angels and saints are on their faces before God. Worship is not a warm-up to the real thing. In Revelation, it is the real thing. And it tells you that the Lamb wins. However dark things get, however unstoppable the beast seems, however loud the voices that say God has abandoned his creation, the final image in Revelation is a city filled with light, where the gates are never shut, and the presence of God fills every corner of a world made completely new. The book of Revelation is not a reason to panic, it's a reason to hold on, because the slaughtered Lamb is still standing. He holds the scroll, he knows exactly how this ends.